Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show. It is your Thursday edition, getting closer to that weekend. Love it. I am a big fan of weekends, and I'm a big fan of the markets on Friday. I used to be, it was my least favorite day of the week because it seemed like if I lost on a Friday, I'd have a bad taste in my mouth. But I'm looking forward to Friday because I have a little bit more time to trade. This morning, I was teaching a class from 6 to 9, and it seemed like all the nice downside movement was to the downside. And right as I finished class, we were making some fresh lows on the S&P, and I made some trades on S&P futures and just came right back, stopped me out, ended up just slightly negative on the day. So a frustrating day for me, but hey, can't win them all. Anyway, let's talk about this picture right here. Elon Musk's Payday for show number 930 for the Trader Merlin Show. It's not official market. There actually was at 1:30, so just a little while ago, there was their annual conference, and it was streaming live. I wish I could have watched it, but I was just too busy getting stuff done. Look at that hair today. In that press conference, they were going to make the announcement. He had passed by the number of votes pretty handily, where it was kind of a guarantee that he was going to get paid. And honestly, I think it's a really good thing. It's a windfall. So the package is supposed to be $56 billion. From what I'm hearing, it's more like $44.9 billion. And I know what many of you are thinking. How many of you think $44.9 billion pay package is too much? Simple yes or no. Do you think that is too much? And I think at face value, everybody here would type, just if you didn't know the story, you didn't know much about it, you go $56 billion pay package, you're going to hit yes to that's too much, right? Like, wow, it's unheard of. Ridiculous. However, if you dig a little deeper into it, I mean, what he has done for Tesla is pretty amazing. And without that, I don't think Tesla would be what it was. Basically, what happened is he went with no annual compensation, no nothing. Basically, it was all performance-based. If it was me, not too much. I'm with Big Ed. When you step back and look at what he's accomplished, when he set out with this pay contract, which was a decade ago, to not take any salary, nothing, and you're going to basically give him share compensation. And he had these benchmarks. And if he achieved this, he would get X amount. If he achieved this much, he'd get X amount. He's exceeded all of that. And everybody at the time was saying, this thing's going to bankruptcy. I'm one of them. If you watch the power trading radio shows from back in 2000, let's see, when did we stop? We stopped in 2020. So if you go back into the 2016, 17, 18 years, people are all, hey, gung-ho on Tesla. I'm like, guys, they're way too in debt. It's nuts. There's no way this company's going to go bankrupt. And couldn't have been more wrong. Not only did they turn that corner, but they're now the fourth richest company. No, maybe not fourth. Maybe on the top 10 richest companies in the world. So to have the vision that Elon Musk had, where he basically said, look, I don't need any pay. I'm going to make this happen. I have to take my hat off to him as one of the best leaders and visionaries out there today. Now, apparently he's going to get that $56 billion pay package. And a judge already said that it's too much, it's not reasonable, but he created almost $1 trillion worth of value. And you guys are going to complain about giving him $56 billion? The guy should get way more than $56 billion in my book, because not only has he taken something from nothing and made it $1 trillion company, but now he's going to lead at that next surge. And I think that from a car company perspective, if you were to say a $56 billion pay package today, like for a year, yeah, way too much. But we're talking, this was a decade. This is years of growth. And he earned that money without a doubt. I think he earns much more than $56 billion. Now, what was interesting is, let's take a peek at Tesla's chart here today. There's Tesla. We got a nice pop up today. Certainly wish I would have kept my shares here and not gotten rid of them when I sold those 165 calls. I'd be in a little bit better position here today. But hey, it is what it is. Very well received. You can see 2.92% gain today. Still looking rather beaten up. But what this does is it solidifies Tesla as not just a car company. I know Tom's probably here going to go, oh, Merlin, here we go again in that car discussion. Tesla has positioned themselves as a vehicle manufacturer, without a doubt. The predominant electric vehicle manufacturer in the world. Now what they've done is by passing this package, Elon Musk has said, look, we're going to shift our focus to robotics. We're going to shift our focus to robo-taxis. And if this pay package doesn't go through, that's fine. I'll just take my ideas and start it somewhere else in one of my other companies. Maybe a little bit of pressure there, and I think it's a smart move by Tesla's shareholders to vote in favor of this. If I was a Tesla shareholder, I would absolutely have voted in favor of this pay package because you want this man at the helm of your company. If he took a simple idea of an electric vehicle and brought that through to fruition and then made it one of the electrical vehicle company in the world and one of the best-selling cars in the United States, hey, I'd like to see what he's going to do next. I'm just disappointed that I'm not holding Tesla shares because I think long-term Tesla's going to be doing much, much better. We talked about their pivot. They were going to go to a cheaper electric vehicle. You know what? Leave that to Tesla. Let Tesla's car division and manufacturing people make a cheaper car. Let's get Elon and his visionary ideas and putting together teams, which seems like he's really good at doing, and build a robotics company. Let's get that Tesla cyber bot that I can get to my house and have it do all my laundry, all my cleaning, all those simple tasks that I don't want to do. I am absolutely waiting. Like Jared says, just wait until he starts selling bots. Absolutely. I can't wait. I may not drive a Tesla. I assure you I will have a Tesla bot in my home doing all the stuff I just don't want to do. Then you couple that with the AI, the robo-taxis, and other projects using AI. Bravo to shareholders today. You should have voted this one through. I'm glad you did, and hopefully we'll see some great things happen here in the near future. Now, one of the arguments is that Elon Musk his attention is divided, right? You've got SpaceX and maybe whatever he's doing a little bit for the Boring Company. You've obviously got Tesla and other companies that got out there. Does that make him very distracted? I don't know. From the interviews I've seen with Elon Musk, he seems to be one of the best people at organizing his time and getting things done. So for me, I think this is a great win-win for Elon today. Let's see what you guys said here about his pay package. Jimmy said, yeah, it was too much. Big Eb said, if it was me, it's not too much. If it's his company, he took the risks, right? He did. Elon's the Ayn Rand man. He got too much. Les says too much. Chio says not too much. Remember, this was for a decade of work. When he took something that was nothing and now made it one of the biggest companies in the world, I don't think that's too much at all. Let me real quickly bring up here my FinViz. I need to put a shortcut to this one just so we can look at the numbers, and I'll go bring up the screener for you. And by the way, before I start, I should have started with this today. I apologize. Bill Addis was supposed to be the guest today. He got stuck in the floods in Florida and can't get out. He's stuck in Miami right now trying to get a flight out. So my apologies on that one. We will have a makeup show on Tuesday. Bill Addis will be on the program talking about the bond markets. And then I've got another special treat for you. One of my favorite traders of all time. You guys know my belief on traders. I believe that the traders who brag and boast and talk about how great they are garbage. They're most likely losing money. I believe that the people who shut up and are quiet and just trade are typically the better traders, at least from my experience and having worked with many traders around the world. I have a guest on the program on Thursday who is very quiet. You don't really see too much of him. You might read some of his articles at Bar Chart, which he does some great articles. I'm talking about none other than Don Dawson will be on the program tomorrow. So one of my personal favorites. Love this guy. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. I'm sure it's going to be commodity-based since he's predominantly a commodities futures trader. But we'll talk with Don Dawson on Thursday, and we're going to have Bill Addis on Tuesday. So I got a couple guests for you next week. My apologies for today. It happens. Sometimes you guys get stuck. Yep, Nanny's a popular teacher. Absolutely. Okay, so let's go back over here. We had a couple different things I should bring up today. There was a leapfrog today in the biggest company in the United States. Not the world, because some people say it's Saudi Aramco. Look at the difference between Apple and Microsoft today. It's only $4 billion. Okay, now granted, these are $3.2 trillion companies. $4 billion separates them today. It was that simple percentage gain, and I have a feeling we are going to see a three-horse race here for quite some time. NVIDIA had a 3.52% update today, putting its market cap at $3.188 trillion. That's only $100 billion behind Apple and Microsoft. So these guys are neck and neck. I feel like I'm watching the Kentucky Derby right now where you start standing up going, oh, yeah, you're near the end, you're near the end. Oh, let me get that light going on over here. I think that this is fantastic. I love it for the markets. I think it makes it very exciting. We leapfrogged again. Apple is the richest company in the United States as of today by market cap. And who knows, that could change by the end of the week. But I think we were having this discussion the other day on NVIDIA. You know, someone saying, oh, it could be the largest company by next year. It's like, I think it could happen by the end of this year. It could happen by the end of this month, the way that this thing's been moving to the upside. Let's see. What else we got here? I see a bunch of comments coming through here. Steve says, I'm a fan of Elon, but didn't they receive a ton of money from the U.S. government? Thought it was, sure. Yeah, they got a lot of government subsidies. And I don't know to what extent that is now. And Are they the only company in the history of the U.S. markets that have received a ton of money from the government to get started and get off the ground? No. There's been many companies that have received it. So I don't think that makes them unique or usurious in any way. Certainly, we could make the argument that Elon Musk was at the right place at the right time with the right vision and the right team, and the government was there handing out money. They also handed out money to, I believe, Fisker got some money as well, and they went under. So just because you got money you got money from the government to help you start this doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to succeed. I think that Tesla has overcome monumental challenges to get to where they are today, particularly when you have such entrenched automakers like Toyota, Honda, Ford, General Motors, and you're coming up as this upstart in a whole new division, and you now are the dominant player. That's pretty impressive. Dominant work there by Elon Musk. So pretty excited to see that one. What else do I have? That's what you said. Like I love Elon. Not sure anyone else could have made it happen. I'm right there with you, Steve. I can't think. We hear about Jack Welch. I'm sure all of you heard the name Jack Welch and what he did as a CEO and what he was as a leader. And I think Jack Welch is probably more of a people person, right? He was all about people and teams and having good relationship. I think Elon Musk is in a different category of visionary. And I hope that nothing happens to him. I hope that he continues to be motivated and driven, because I hope in my lifetime, as well as I think many of you do, I hope in our lifetime we see us explore different planets. NASA's been at this for decades. Decades NASA has been running this, and they haven't done what Elon Musk has done so far. And Elon Musk has only been doing this a little while. So I'm really excited to see, do we land on Mars? Are we going to have a base on the moon? Are we going to get to Venus and Uranus and all these other planets? Why not? I'm tired of watching Star Trek to get to other planets. I'd love to see it actually in real life happen. Hopefully someday. Yep, Margie was GE. That was Jack Welch. Most of the recipients of government bucks go bankrupt shortly after. Right. It's great to see one of them succeed. Now what I don't know with that one, Big Ev, is did the government get their money back? Did they get, was that an investment? Did they get a rate of return? Did the government get to vote on Elon Musk's pay package today? He's an odd guy, but I can't think of a bigger picture thinker. He is a weirdo. When you think of someone who you just go, man, that guy is weird, Elon Musk comes to the top of my mind. Weird Al Yankovic, maybe, Robin Williams, and Elon Musk, just from the quirkiness, oddball stuff. You just never know what you're going to get from Elon Musk. But there's something about Elon Musk. I would almost feel like he's on the spectrum, because he's got this air of intelligence. That he's a very smart guy. Anyway, I feel like a total fanboy right now. Okay, so that was your first piece, that big payday. As far as what's going to happen with Tesla, I think that this will actually help Tesla grow over the next couple quarters. Why? Because you've kind of confirmed that Elon Musk is going to stay there for a while and lead this charge and steal Tesla into a multi-dimensional company, not just a vehicle company, but now you're talking about robo-taxis. So you have retail vehicles with their Teslas, you have a whole fleet of vehicles with their robo-taxis. You have the leader in driving AI. They have more recording data than anybody, all the different car manufacturers combined. And now you are looking at Tesla going into robotics, etc. I think that this is very positive for Tesla. So that was your first piece. Let me go to my production schedule here. Thank you to the production manager, Merlin, who did this today. That was Elon Musk's payday. Again, $56 billion. What I hope happens, I hope he buys up shares of his own company with that, or does something else with it. Margaret says, what's Elon's problem with Apple? I don't think is necessarily a problem with Apple. He's upset with Apple because he believes they're not looking at the security risks of having OpenAI as their AI data source. So, of course, Apple looks at this and says, we don't have the expertise in AI to incorporate into our products yet, right? We don't have it. So let's go and use OpenAI. And because we're Apple and we're so powerful, we'll play hardball. Now, they were talking about using Google's AI platform, but Google wanted to be paid. I didn't see the numbers here. We talked about this yesterday. I don't believe that Apple's going to pay OpenAI, and I don't believe that OpenAI is going to pay Apple. I think Apple and OpenAI are going to go mutual benefit here. You get access to our database and everything, and we'll get your OpenAI platform. We'll incorporate that into our software in Release 18, which should come out at the end of this year. So it's a win-win for both companies. It's more of a win for OpenAI. Because what will probably happen is, my guess is OpenAI will do an IPO would say that OpenAI doing an IPO. That was a tongue twister there. Seashells down by the seashore. I think that you'll see OpenAI do an IPO probably early next year. Once they start to get relationships built with Apple and locked in as that data provider for AI for them, then I think probably early next year you'll see OpenAI do that IPO, and it's going to be massive. It's going to be absolutely massive. Now, I also said yesterday that what I do think you'll see happen is Apple is going to continue to use OpenAI until they build their own LLM, their large language model AI platform, and then they'll replace that just like they did with Google Maps years ago. So what's his problem with Apple? He has an issue with OpenAI, right? He has recently sued, and then he just yesterday pulled that lawsuit. But he sued OpenAI because they were supposed to be for the good of humanity. Again, I love his altruism here. He wanted AI to be a humanitarian tool, not a profit type of business. And of course, now they're going for pure profit. Elon Musk also knows how OpenAI uses and gathers and collects data. That's the problem. The way that once your information is in OpenAI, it's not coming out, right? It's like you never want to put those nasty pictures on the internet because it's on the internet, it's out there forever. His concern is that if you connect OpenAI to Apple, that now it's on the device, and if it's built into the operating system, which it sounds like it might be with version 18, then it may have access to everything, which includes your personal information, which includes potentially logins, which includes your potential emails and all that stuff. Now, Apple is saying, no, that's not going to happen. We will secure it. We'll make sure that's encrypted and all that stuff is protected, and we'll let the users decide what they want to share. Obviously, if you share your email with OpenAI, it will now have a much better understanding of how to tailor services to you. It will write for you in your native tongue. It'll know exactly. I've trained ChatGPT how to write and speak like me. I use ChatGPT when I write articles, and I use that as the foundation for the article, and then I go back through and I will rewrite all those things with my own personal takes, but it will write articles with my tone of voice. It's pretty incredible what it can do. So if a user like myself allows OpenAI in version 18 on my iPhone to read all my emails, that's now part of OpenAI's database. Everything, no matter how personal it is, it's part of their database. And that, I think, concerns Elon Musk from a security risk. Rob says, what made him change his mind? So, obviously, OpenAI came back and said, this is a frivolous lawsuit, it's BS. And what they did is they published emails from Elon Musk in which they talk about, Elon Musk says, you're going to need a ton of money to get this thing to profitability, thus implying that this is a for-profit business. And they're like, Elon, you knew this was going to go for profit. And I think he just said, why fight it, right? I'll just back out. So he pulled that one. What does open source mean? OpenAI is not open source. Correct. Yeah, it's a misleading term, right? If Andres, what does open source mean? Open source. So let's look at two different. I'm trying to think of a good example here because I could use Bitcoin as an example. I'll use this one here. Let me grab it. So you guys, I have these different devices. This is called a Trezor. This is called a ledger. A ledger is simply a storage device for cryptocurrency. This is not open source. What that means is that the code is private. It's on here, but it's private. You're not allowed to look at it, view it, modify it, or do anything to it. This is closed source. If you use a Trezor, which is a similar device, you can download the code, you can look at it, and anybody is free to look at the code. Now, there's arguments for this. Private source code gives you much more power because you control everything. You have competitive advantage. Open source allows anybody to copy that code and create the same program. So they could simply copy that code and make their own devices if they wanted to. However, it does achieve another goal. When you're closed source, like my ledger is, if there's a vulnerability in that code, somebody could buy this device, put it in, go and work and try to break that code and find vulnerabilities and a way to enter my device and steal my private keys and public keys. With open source, because there's so many people looking at the code, the vulnerabilities get fixed very quickly. So you start to see with open source a greater degree of security because everyone's looking at it. I don't know if that makes sense. When you have all these developers and hackers looking at something, it's easy to find the flaws. When you have closed source that only one controlling entity can look at, you have vulnerabilities. How safe is that code? We don't know because we can't see it. Linux is open source versus Microsoft Windows closed source. Correct, right? And anybody can take a copy of. You can go right now and get Linux for free. You can go and download Linux from the web for free. Now, knowing how to use it is maybe a bit of a challenge. There are companies like Red Hat and others who have taken Linux, packaged it, and made it easy to use with a user interface, and sold that and made a business out of that. There was Linux One and a couple others that started up years ago. But Andres, that's what open source, closed source means. Open source is it's open to anybody. You can look at the code base, have at it. Bitcoin is open source. Do you know how many people have copied Bitcoin? The exact code? A lot. They've taken the exact code, they've modified it. Litecoin, for example. Litecoin is Bitcoin with a modified code. And there are several other projects that have copied it. Bitcoin's open source. Go for it. Let's see. Just confirm Elon won the pay package. Good. Good. Will Elon relocate Tesla? I don't think so. We look at it where? It's Texas. I think he's happy in Texas now. I do own some Tesla. This is a good area to add more. I don't know that, Steve. I'm not a financial advisor. This show is not about giving financial advice. I feel like over the longer haul, Tesla will probably see much more upside movement. Now, if we look at this price chart of Tesla, obviously this has been a pretty significant pullback here. Let's go to a weekly time frame. All right, let me get these other lines off here because it's a bit cluttered. You had these highs back here in 2021 where Tesla hit a price of $414, and I'm sure many of you I'd love to own it at now and get to 414. I think that that's a possibility. I definitely think it could get to a much higher level if they can be first to market with either of these two items. Mind you, there's two things that by keeping Elon Musk, Tesla puts themselves in this competitive space. What are they? Number one is the robo-taxi, which will revolutionize transportation, in my opinion. There may be people who don't even own a car anymore that normally have one. Like I have a vehicle, I have a truck, I have down to one car and a motorcycle. I'll always have one vehicle because I like the freedom. But there's a lot of cost to that, right? I've got my annual registration, I've got insurance on that, I've got maintenance, that could cost me a couple $1,000s a year. Whereas I may just use a robo-taxi, which is going to be much, much cheaper per ride than like an Uber, because it'll all be one central company doing it as opposed to Uber and Lyft outsourcing drivers. There'll be no humans involved. Cost will drop. So they'll make a little bit of money on each ride, but they'll dominate that marketplace. And with this, if you're first to market, you'll get the lion's share of, you're not going to get it all because other companies will pop up. But if you're first to market with a robo-taxi, you're going to make a boatload of money. Now look at the robotics side. We have a bunch of different companies trying to get into that robotic space. If you're the first to market with a household robot, the first version, probably not going to be great, right? Just think of the very first Tesla. It wasn't great. They've improved and done a lot of upgrades to the software and the systems as well. But we'll get to the point that a lot of people are going to be lining up to buy these things. I will probably be one of them. I don't know if I'll buy the first one, but I will be buying them right away. So I think you have two first-to-market advantages for Tesla at this point. And what does that translate into? Does that translate into another $1 trillion valuation? It very well could. Now, I think if you look at Uber and Lyft, right? So let's go to Uber. Uber right now trading at $70. This is a weekly time frame as well, so we can see all the way back to their IPO back here in 2019. Uber's got a pretty significant valuation, right? They're well up there. Let's go Lyft. Lyft not looking so good, right? Lyft is only at $14 right now, but it was over $85 a couple years back. If you have a robo-taxi, a significant portion of their market share for Lyft and Uber goes away. And these are pretty significant valuations. I don't know. Let's see. Let me see if I can find what the market cap is on this one. I don't usually use TradingView for my financial stuff, but let's see if I can find some. No, I can't find the financial. I was going to see what the market cap was of this bad boy. Oh, here we go. So our market cap is $5.8 billion for Lyft. Okay, so $5.8 billion is their market cap. And then Uber, let's bust this one out here and go to Uber, see what theirs is. And let's go and do that same thing where I look at financials. You're talking $148 billion. And again, I do believe that a large part of that market share will start to disappear. I think you'll see a lot of it move over to robo-taxis. You know, why, as Margaret jokingly says, can't get mugged in a robot taxi. True. It certainly reduces that element of it. Doesn't eliminate it. You know, someone could jump in and steal you, or rob you. But yeah, the driver's not going to take you to some weird destination. I mean, the level of safety and confidence, I think, as a passenger in those vehicles is better. I've seen a lot of the statistics regarding AI, self-driving vehicles. The safety ratings are far better than a standard driver. Okay, great. I feel safe using that. And, you know, for some of you that live in the city, for example, you may never need a car. You need to go somewhere, just call yourself a robo-taxi. There'll be fleets of them all over. So I think that this is something that could push it into the multi-trillion-dollar market cap for Tesla. Now, right now, Tesla's market cap, I had it on the stock screener here, you're looking at a $581 billion market cap right now. Well, if they were first to market with a robo-taxi and they're first to market with the Tesla robot, I think that this could very well be back up near the top of these competitors up here in the $3 trillion market cap space. I know it sounds very lofty, but I mean, those are huge markets that has a lot of revenue there. Right now, they're forming a bullish chart on the daily. Okay. I never had a car in Scottsdale, Ubered everywhere and loved it. Yeah, but I think the numbers will be cheaper for a robo-taxi. It'll all be controlled by Tesla. It won't be private vendors. They will be the taxi company themselves. So you cut out the intermediary. The intermediary is someone who owns the vehicle and a human driver. That's where a large part of those profits are going. But if all of a sudden Tesla can manufacture an economic vehicle that has full driver capabilities, and then that fleet is just running around 24 hours a day, I think you got a pretty significant market advantage there and huge profit potential. Elon's pay, not even close to too much. He earned every penny, probably more. I'm with you. Totally with you, Anthem. I agree with you 100%. Bravo, and I hope he keeps making money. I want to see Elon Musk become the first trillionaire and see what he can do with that money. You know, he seems, as crazy as he is, I feel like a lot of what he does is for the benefit of people. And one of my really good friends hates Elon Musk. Absolutely hates him. I'm like, why? And he's like, well, because the electric vehicle ruins the environment. I'm like, it was going that route anyway, right? What about going to Mars? What about creating new ways of transportation by boring tunnels around the United States? I mean, there's a lot of good stuff here. Camp Elon in Kansas City, nice. Okay, well, I went long-winded on that one. We are, 20 minutes in? 30 minutes in? Oh, 30 minutes in. Okay, let me keep going. That was your first piece, was Elon's payday. My second piece of information today was your producer price index. Boy, man, we talked about the shock to the system from yesterday's CPI number. Here is today's PPI number. This is good news, really good news. Anybody who's looking at a rate cut discussion, this is great news. Inflation numbers for PPI today were expected to go from 0.5% down to 0.1%, right? That would have been a nice drop. Not only, and I mentioned yesterday, I said, you know, if we get down below, let's say to zero on that, it wouldn't surprise me because the expectations were beaten yesterday on CPI. Well, we came out at negative 0.2. Now, it's only 1 point data, but we have had several, contractions in PPI over the past couple of years, but this is a great sign, right? If we can get another one or another one after that, then all of a sudden the probability of the Fed doing something with rates gets a little bit better. Right now, you're looking, I'll bring it up here. Right now, the prognosis was we're going to see one rate cut by the end of the year. Jerome Powell kind of signaled 1 or 2 rate cuts by the end of the year. Well, as of yesterday's CPI number, your numbers have shifted significantly. The market is already pricing in 2 rate cuts by the end of the year, and it kind of oscillates between 1 and 3 rate cuts. You can see that's kind of the arc here. So 3 rate cuts is a 24% probability, a 23% chance of 1 rate cut, and a 47% chance of 2 rate cuts. So it's already changing, and we may see this shift even further to the left based off of the PPI numbers today. Again, this data here does not reflect that. Now, our next meeting for the FOMC is going to be July 31st, coming up close here. And expectations are right now 87% that they're going to keep it right where it's at. I think that's probably the prudent thing to do at this juncture, but this may shift as of tomorrow's reading once they incorporate in the current PPI data, which I think is a good one. Now, another piece of interesting information. Now, I haven't followed this one that in depth, but I know that Disney Disney World in Orlando, Florida, has had this very preferential tax treatment and no government intervention on their grounds. And DeSantis, there was some weird thing that popped up between Disney and DeSantis said, I'm removing all that. You got no preferential treatment. You know, you have to pay for all this stuff. And it started this little bit of a feud. From what I read today, and I didn't spend a lot of time on it, we are seeing a little bit of a resolution here. So Mickey can cheer with settlement. And I believe the settlement is that Disney is going to invest $16 billion into Disney World over the next 15 years. So call it a little over $1 billion a year. And in doing so, they will be creating several new parks. They're going to create a water park and some other things. So as if you go to Disney World and you don't spend enough money and time. I mean, that place is absolutely massive. I loved it when I went. I really loved Epcot Center and that whole area over there. But they'll be expanding. I guess that's good for Disney. So what does that mean price-wise? Let's look at some price charts here of Disney. DIS. So even with that kind of positive news, Disney not doing that well today. It was down 0.7%, slightly down in the after hours trading. Let's call it $100 for Disney, which is definitely well off of its highs back from March of this year when March of 2021 when Disney was up around $200. So you're right now at about a 50% discount to its all-time high for Disney. Personally, I think this is probably a good thing. This whole feud with Florida and DeSantis was a distraction. I think that was hurting Disney. I think now that it's out of the way, it paves the path for planning for the future for Disney. How do we expand over there in Disney World? What are we going to build? And that may bring in more revenue. So I think this is a very positive thing for Disney and Mickey Mouse celebrating here. I had it on trivia the other day. The trivia question was, what color are Mickey Mouse's shoes? I did not know they were yellow. I thought that they were red. His pants are red with those 2 white buttons. All right. So there's that little piece. Let's see, anybody else in here? Merlin, Roaring Kitty finally closed those options. $30 million, great payday. That was where I was going. I didn't know he actually closed them all. I knew he liquidated some. But that brings me to my final point here, which is Roaring Kitty. Now, that's obviously not the Roaring Kitty. I had multiple graphics here today for the Roaring Kitty, which I thought was really rather humorous. But Roaring Kitty, as you guys know, you may have seen my tweet over my cruise when I was in Seattle. I tweeted out this one, and it was really interesting. So Roaring Kitty had, what was it, 120,000 call options. He went long calls at $20 strike. So if we look at GameStop here, let's go GME. All right, I'll put a horizontal line at, $20, which is what his strike price was. And I will put that right, I'll put it there, and we'll type in the number to get it to be exactly 20. Okay, so he purchased 120,000 call options at $20. Now, what does that mean? Why is this important? It's hugely important because what it means is 120. Was it 120,000? Yeah, it was 120. Oh, now I'm all messed up. I think it was 120,000 call options. Let me bring up my calculator here so to get it all right. So he had 120,000 call options. There you go. And of course, those control 100 shares each. Yeah. So which means that he would have 12 million shares long if exercised. And if you notice, he's in the money right now. So technically, if he wants to, he could say, I'm taking delivery of 12 million shares of GameStop, right? So let me ask you guys, what problem does that pose? Why is this such a huge thing? Remember, he bought 120,000 call options from a variety of different market makers, mind you. So it's not all from one firm, it's from different market makers. But whoever sold the call option to Roaring Kitty is now responsible to deliver 100 shares for every contract that he purchased. And he purchased those at $20. So for every contract that they sell, right now, those market makers are losing money. Who is Roaring Kitty selling his call options to? That's a good question. We'll get to that in a second. It'll be hard to sell the stock. It'll be hard to get the stock. So if I'm Roaring Kitty, we talked about this in 2020 when we had that big short squeeze, right? Roaring Kitty bought up all of these bought up all these call options, which, I don't remember what price he paid, but he bought all these call options. If I'm Roaring Kitty, I can now force these institutions to go to the open market and buy 12 million shares. Remember, they're obligated legally to deliver to me 100 shares per contract, and I've got 120,000 of those. These firms that he bought the calls from, they don't have that much. Like I saw some of the numbers. It was like they might have 1 million shares or a couple 100,000 shares, but now they're going to be on the hook for 12 million. Now, what's that going to do to price? These market makers are going to be forced to go to the open market and buy GameStop stock so they can now give him the shares they owe him. What's that do to price? You've almost forced a short squeeze. I think it's brilliant. I think it's amazing what he did. Genius move. We'll see what happens. Like if I was Roaring Kitty, you see back here, this is 5 days ago, GameStop shot up on this news, and GameStop hit a high intraday of $47.50. That means that he was in the money, $27.50 per share on that. I would have unloaded a substantial portion of my position. No way in hell I'm going to keep that to delivery. Now, here's the other weird part about this. And guys, type in the chat if you're not with me. If you don't understand this, you don't get it, let me know. Maybe I'll draw an example here to go through it. This is huge because what it does is it's Roaring Kitty is exploiting a flaw in the system. He's not doing anything illegal, nothing illegal. Let's be clear about that. This is all by the book. It's the markets allow me to buy this many call options. I'll buy this many call options. So he's not doing anything illegal. Everybody with me. If you don't get it, just say, I don't understand what you're talking about, and I'll explain it further. He's tricking these guys left and right. Yep, he is. So here's the other portion of this, which I find interesting. Let me make this full screen. If he takes delivery of these, two things are going to happen. Number one is all of these firms who sold those call options to him, and they're all market makers, whoever sold those call options is going to be scrambling to buy GameStop. And mind you, these options expire tomorrow, I believe. Is it tomorrow? I think he has tomorrow, maybe the next week's. It's got to be tomorrow. Is it legal to make tweets once you all the option? Tweets? Is it illegal to make tweets once you have the options? He hasn't said anything like buy GameStop. He just said, I've got this many options. I don't see any problem with that one, right? So Andy, the way it works, if you buy a call option, you have the right to take delivery of those. So in this example here, if you were to buy, right now GameStop is $29. If you paid for the call option to buy it at $20, well, you could buy it at $20 right now because it's in the money. It's already at $29. But let's say I wanted to buy it when it got up here to like say $36. I could buy those call options. They'd be relatively cheap because it's a long distance away. But if price got above $36, then whoever sold that option to me is required to deliver 100 shares per contract to me. So in this case, these guys are now required to deliver. Oh, it's June 21st. Thanks, Roger. I wasn't sure whether it was this weekend or next week. So he's got another week to get there. Thank you for that. So Roaring Kitty is a genius. I don't know if he's a genius, Eric. Genius, I think what he's doing is a brilliant move. It's something that takes some cojones, and I think a lot of people just don't think about it because you do have the ability to move a market. In the case of GameStop, it's heavily shorted, right? There's a lot of short interest. Not what it was in 2020, but there's still a lot of short interest. And these major firms like Citadel are boasting on how big their short positions are. So now what you've done is you have these millions of followers follow Roaring Kitty. Doesn't he have the option to not take delivery? Yes, correct. He can not take delivery. Yep, Mike, he could. What he should be doing is selling those options, right, and locking in some profit there. But that's a lot of options. You know, right now, he could sell his call options because they're in the money. He's got profit. It's at $29. His call options are at $20. So he has $9 of profit per share. Now, if you times that by 120,000, it's millions of dollars worth of profit. That's why the broker is trying to take it up. Yep, they're talking about restricting him. That drives me nuts. So, similar to how you said, how you sold your silver. Correct, Andy. Yep. So I sold calls. If I sold calls, somebody bought my calls for silver at $23.50, right? Which means that if it gets above $23.50, my shares got taken away. So what these market makers are going to have a problem with is they're selling naked calls, right? Mine are what are called covered calls. If I have 100 shares of silver, I'll sell one contract to gain a little extra premium, but I'm not going to sell calls naked, meaning for shares I don't own. These market makers have, and they're heavily naked right now. So, they say when the tide goes out, you see who's wearing their bathing suits. In this case, these market makers aren't wearing bathing suits. They don't have the shares to deliver. Therefore, you have now forced them to go buy in the open market. And that's going to drive GameStop's price up. Now, here's the other side of this. Remember, his strike price is $20 per share. And remember, 120,000 contracts times 100 is 12 million shares. If Roaring Kitty chooses to take delivery of this, it's going to cost him $240 million. So my question I posted is, who's bankrolling Roaring Kitty? If Roaring Kitty really wants to stick it to the man and, screw these guys over, these big hedge funds and market makers, take delivery. Because now you're forcing all of them to go buy. They will be scrambling to buy shares. It will be a chaotic event. But where's he going to get $240 million on this, right? I would love to see him take delivery. I'd love to see him force the... Yes, he did. Guy, he did. That's why I'm getting there. I was coming up with scenarios because I don't think this is the last time we're going to see this. I think you'll see this pop up a couple times. The Nigerian brothers. So guy says, didn't he post that he sold his calls? Is it going over last week? I didn't think he sold all of them last week. I know that he sold out portions of his position. I didn't hear that he closed all of it. And he's doing the right thing. I mean, if you're Roaring Kitty, you should scale out of this. 120,000 contracts is a massive position. And we talked to Corey Lane, who runs a hedge fund, and he's talking, getting into 10,000 is a big position. He's got 120,000. That's monster. I didn't see what the open float was, VB. He's got a majority of it. Today he closed them. Cool. Thank you for that. So the good news is he's out. I'm cheering for Roaring Kitty, but just keep this in the back of your mind that when you have a heavily shorted stock, like GameStop, or we pulled a couple of other ones. I think I actually had a list here. 1 second. Let me see if I can find a list of heavily shorted stocks. I pulled this up for you guys. I think this is it. Yeah, there we go. So these are a list of stocks right here that are heavily shorted. Now you notice that GameStop's not even on here anymore because that's kind of been purged. But there is a potential for this same type of thing to happen on something like SunPower, right? SPWR. Right now, there's a 95% short interest float, meaning 95% of those shares are short. So what does that tell us? Well, let's go SPWR. If someone were to, and I don't think that SunPower is anywhere near as liquid as GameStop with regards to their options, but somebody could come out here and start buying call options at, let's say, 350 and just keep buying and buying and buying and buying like Roaring Kitty did. Buy a couple 100,000 of them. And at some point, he may force these companies to quiver in their pants a little bit, and then these companies may be rushing to buy shares and indirectly drive price up. So it's almost like he was forcing a short squeeze. Now again, GameStop, I don't remember what the float is, short interest is right now. It's nowhere near the 140% it was a couple years back. It's probably at like 30 or 40% short float interest right now. But some of these other ones might be prime candidates for that type of game. Now, you got to have a lot of money to do that, right? Especially if you plan on taking delivery. But I think it's an interesting event that's happening. I've been trading a long time. I haven't seen somebody as public like this use options as a way to kind of trap these market makers and, again, stick it to the man. He did the same thing back in 2000 and 2020 when we saw that massive surge up and that short squeeze. Look, he identified a vulnerability of those stocks. And I still don't understand why there's not rules against shorting more shares than are available, right? If there's 100 shares available, you shouldn't be able to short more than 100 shares. And somehow we were at 140% on the short interest there. The other problem is Roaring Kitty takes physical delivery of GameStop stock. He'll have a hard time selling the position without totally collapsing the market for that. Correct. That is definitely a big issue. But Roger, keep this in mind. Roaring Kitty's argument the whole time has been, and this is what he was saying in front of Congress, he goes, I like their fundamentals. I like their valuations. They're good. They're going to grow. They've got prospects. Now, they just did a round of debt funding. I think now officially GameStop is debt-free. They got some funding and they're now debt-free, which is interesting. But it's still GameStop. I correct me if I'm wrong or try to prove me wrong, but I just don't see GameStop rising from the ashes and becoming a big company here. I see them closing stores. I see them kind of dropping. There's a GameStop down the street, and every time I go by, there's nobody in that GameStop. I'm not buying video games anymore. I download everything. Yep. That's the money that doesn't happen often. We'll see. We'll see what happens with it. But I think it's very interesting. I was excited to see the whole GameStop thing. I like Roaring Kitty. I normally don't follow people on social media. I don't know. They bug me, but I keep Roaring Kitty on there just because I think it's entertaining. It's fun to watch and see what goes on with this guy. We'll see what his next play is. But again, next week those options will expire worthless, and let's see if he starts up a new round. Let's see if he starts jumping on a new round of options and does the short squeeze. He definitely got a lot of publicity. I mean, he had 600,000 people logging into his live stream, where he was just kind of making fun of the markets. And bravo. Good for him. That's why Jerome Powell doesn't want to cut rates. Because of Roaring Kitty? Let's see. Last part. Let's wrap up here. We talked about that PPI number. We were supposed to have a tentative rate announcement that will probably happen later on this evening for Bank of Japan. For tomorrow, I will bring up your calendar here. For Friday, should be a fun day. I love Fridays. Friday, you've got really a couple announcements for the U.S. Import prices, University of Michigan consumer sentiment, and inflation expectations, and that's pretty much it. You can see for Canada, you've got some manufacturing sales and wholesale sales, but that is your quiet day. And for Friday's earnings, there really is nothing going on there. There's a crypto named Solana. There's a crypto on Solana named GameStop that went parabolic after the tweet of the year. You know, it's funny. There are cryptos for everything. And, you know, part of the things I teach in my crypto class are that most cryptos are a scam. And I stand by that 100%. There's 2.4 million cryptocurrencies out there. If 99% of those are scams, 99%, that means you've got 24,000 projects that have potential. And I think that might be too much. I think there's probably a good, 100 or 200 really good projects that have some legs and could potentially be something big someday. The rest are just pump and dump gambles. And that GameStop coin, that's one of them. That's a scam. That's somebody creating a GameStop coin to capitalize on what's hot, right? So what we should do, I can't do it because I have a moral backbone and I don't want to steal from people, but what we could easily do is next time there's a big event, something that's a big noteworthy event, whether it's a celebrity or something, we create a coin with that name. And I can create that coin in 7 minutes. It'd take me about another hour to create a liquidity pool for it. And then we really go on social media and everybody pump and talk about this one thing. We'll give all of you 1 billion shares of it, 1 billion tokens. And everybody go out there on whatever platform and talk about how amazing this thing is. And then we get it to run just a little bit. And I can create a liquidity pool that's so small that if you bought like 10 coins, it could rally 50% in value. So basically what you do there is you have a little bit of pump in there, and then all of a sudden it's on all the scanners and filters as the top gainer, and more degenerates buy it, and it goes vaulting up in value, and it could be pretty dang ugly. So anyway, thought I would share that with you. I was half hour late. Watched 200%. It caught up. Your laundry robot will cost $100,000. Follow me for. Hey Tom, my laundry robot. $100,000. And you're right. You are right. Hold on. I think I got an ad coming, and I want to stop before I get to the ad. You have 36 seconds so we get the ad. What time is it? 49 after? All right. Let's see. I will wait for this commercial break here. But you're right. Those Spirit Airlines. Oh, man. Spirit Airlines is trash. Only reason I like Spirit Airlines is they're cheap. I fly to Vegas, and last flight I had to Vegas was a combination of Spirit and Frontier, and it was, I think, $49. Like, what? How can you do that? So, Michael, who's one of our regulars here, usually comes in like the last 5 minutes. I don't see him here today. Oh, the Spirit coin. Yeah, Jeff. The Spirit coin. Michael, who comes in here at the very end. I wish he was here today. Michael, if you're here, we talk about this all the time. You mentioned SoFi the other day, and you mentioned all this great economic news and how it's going to go up, it's going to go up. Look at the chart. I don't care what headline you're reading. You tell me that this price chart is going up. You just tell me that's going up. Why? It's going down. It's looking weaker and weaker every single day. Until this thing makes some new highs, you shouldn't touch it. I don't care if Mother Teresa herself comes to you and knocks on your door and says, hey, you need to buy this stock. Don't listen to it. You could be having a divine premonition, and the Holy Lord himself comes to you and says, oh, buy SoFi. Don't do it. I don't care who tells you to buy this thing. Look at it. It's going nowhere but down. Now, it may change. It may change. But Michael, please stop buying these companies that are looking like this chart here, that are beaten down, and you always bring them up. I want to help you, but you got to help yourself. Why buy something that is going down like this? If SoFi turns the corner and starts to make some new highs, then we'll talk about it. Then we'll be interested. But right now, Hood, I haven't checked that one out in a while. Goodness gracious. And I was very bearish on this one too. But what did I say about Hood, Margaret? Back here, I think when we really were talking about this thing, I was like, this thing's garbage. It's going to keep on going down, right? I never said that it's never going to go up. We actually talked about it being a potential buyout target. And I said, until this thing makes some new highs, stay out of it, right? And look at it. Garbage, 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 garbage. It has not made a new high. And then right about there, I would say once it breaks 1150, there's your new high. And then it came crashing back down and even lower. So even there, it's not a great example of it. But this thing stayed underwater for a couple years. And now all of a sudden it's having its move. Now you're buying into Robinhood. Why? Because the trend is there. Trend is up. VRT. Man, nice. Vertif Holdings. Yeah, great chart. I personally have a problem chasing things that move this far, this fast. That's just me. So I wouldn't buy VRT. Just like I wouldn't buy A&F. Right? Abercrombie & Fitch. I don't get this at all. I don't get how Abercrombie & Fitch, which makes clothing that I don't even find attractive, goes from $23 to $190 in a year. That's just crazy. Eric, I don't have any thoughts on Caspa. I haven't done analysis on it, so I'm not going to jump on and make the statement there on it, but I'll check that one out. Give me next week. Ask me again next week because I need to do a project analysis for my crypto class, and maybe I'll do Caspa. I've got a whole bunch that people want me to analyze, and again, there's so many out there to choose from, but I'll check that one out. Does the VIX have a holding cost when buying it? Just additional fees? Just additional fees. Just fees. All right, my time is up. Guys, it's going to be Friday tomorrow. I will have our weekend edition show as usual. If you guys have something you want me to discuss on tomorrow's show, let me know. You can email me, send it on in at TraderMerlin@gmail.com, which is on your screen, or go to any of the YouTube videos, as I see many of you doing. Thank you very much. Comment down there, and I will put it into our slides here and have it for tomorrow's show. So thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed talking about Elon's Payday, the Producer Price Index, Walt Disney, and of course, Roaring Kitty. Bill Addis will be on the program on Tuesday, Oliver. He's stuck in Florida with all the floods. I guess there's massive flooding going on. He couldn't get a flight out of Miami, so he's not home. He will be on the program on Tuesday, and I'm going to have Don Dawson on Thursday. There we go. All right, guys, thank you so much. Who will win the Super Bowl? 49ers, Jeff. Want to bet on that one? I'm taking Niners this year. You little Chiefs, Taylor Swift fans. I'll take a bet. All right, guys, have a great day. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care.